There's nothing wrong with being alone. That just means you're comfortable having your own company. But if you get severely uncomfortable and nervous whenever you're around other people, welcome to my world. Ever since puberty hit me, I've cared way too much about myself, and the way I look, the way I act, and I found myself easily intimidated by other people. When I was a kid, I was super scared and shy to talk to anyone because I was afraid they would laugh at me. I didn't want to make myself feel small, but I didn't want to stand up for myself because that's just embarrassing. I thought, maybe it's just because I haven't developed that form of confidence yet. I know that when I get older, things won't be as bad as they seem to be, but it's still pretty bad. Based on the way I experience social situations and having to deal with confronting someone or talking to anyone, I get really tense. My body shakes, my heart beats faster, and I heat up in nervousness. This has happened to me every time I deal with having to be in the middle of a social area. It can be as little as just a simple phone call without using cameras, to as big as being in the center of a crowd. Like, seriously, whenever I have to go take a call at a specific time, I get really anxious whenever the clock ticks to that minute, and then I'll have to start talking. Ew. I always wondered how people at my age develop that confidence so soon. There are children that could effortlessly talk to a crowd of adults just fine, and I can't even talk to one stranger without feeling like stabbing myself in regret. I even questioned this as a kid. I knew I was shy. I was fully aware of it. But seeing other kids just be the most ballistic hooligans ever, it leaves me in awe. I mean, that's one way of having a good childhood. But I guess you could say that I was only starting to worry less when the people that I liked being around, it helped me become more comfortable with it. When I finally started experiencing happiness by finding the right people to be with, I'm no longer embarrassed or ashamed. I didn't care what others thought of me during those moments. I was just glad that I could go with the flow and not feel like I'm trying to be different in order to fit in. But these are only in circumstances where you're surrounded by a group of friends, whether in school, hanging out at home, or going out. But that's only because you know these people, and they know you. That's why people are comfortable around friends, because you understand each other's humor and personalities. So my point is, obviously, if I am with people who I'm comfortable hanging around with, there's no worries about feeling different. But that's the case. I'm comfortable around people, but only the right kind of people. If it's with people I hardly know or a large pack of strangers, yeah, that's a different situation. And I know some of you would say, we just act differently depending on who we're around. If we know them, we know how to act. If we don't know them, we know how to act. And you're right. It's like people put on a different mask whenever we are with a different person. But I didn't know that in the past. Let's just say I overthink situations way too much, and this led to a massive problem. I never realized how much this factor played against me during my first few years of high school. This is why I'm mentioning that people have developed their confidence or feel less insecure when they're around people they enjoy being around. Because in this circumstance, you don't feel judged because they enjoy your company. But this perspective from an outsider that just discreetly observes these patterns, they've affected me a lot. Because I care way too much about the way others see me and how I see them. If I look at a group of friends, laughing and telling each other stories, I assume they're happy and don't fear being judged. But taking into their perspective, they don't fear being judged because they're busy being happy. Me, however, didn't think of it that way. I was a lone wolf in a high school of hundreds of kids. I was intimidated by everyone, reminiscing all those faint memories of happiness with my friends, just to feel all of it fade away, and all I have left is seeing my classmates express themselves like elementary school kids as a reminder that it was once me. I would like to keep in mind that all the challenges that I faced within the first half of high school stabilized my fear of socializing, and it made me learn that that was the massive problem I had to overcome. But it took me years to get over it. I hardly was able to change it. I thought it was just an issue that I hoped would fade away, but it would actually take lots of courage for it to fade away. So throughout these years, understanding how much I struggled to properly handle socializing made me understand what was the issue. But of course, it was something I almost couldn't control. Several bad habits that I've done during these scenarios involve overthinking the way I talk to people. Did I say that right? Should I have said it in that tone? Did they think I was genuine? Or overthinking the way I look to others? Was I making weird facial gestures? Was I giving eye contact? If I wasn't smiling, were they intimidated by me? And overthinking the reaction they give. Why did they say that? Should I have expected that? Was that the right answer? I hope they don't think I'm weird. You know, I have a strong empathy for people, which in this case is not always good. I get way too imaginative when it comes to visualizing what everything looked like in their perspective, seeing me in their eyes, giving all my answers, and potentially realizing that I'm making a weird face and I didn't even notice. Because I want to make sure they feel comfortable in my presence, and if I feel like they're not, I'll know I'm to blame. You'd think that me going on about that same situation over and over again was only something that's going in my head. Well, yeah, but internal pressure causes many possible external issues, such as my body language. For the most part, I'm glad that these issues only go on in my mind, which means nobody could actually judge me, because I feel like I'd be pretty hard to read. But I convey a lot of body gestures that I do when I get nervous, and it's bad to visually express that because people will know that I'm secretly stressing out, despite my blank facial expression. When I get really nervous, my body starts shaking. This happens a lot when I'm doing a presentation, and it's even worse when you're trying to stop yourself from shaking. But what I'm really doing is tensing my body even more, which is probably worsening it. But the main thing that happens to me all the time is that whenever I'm in the situation, my face heats up like crazy. When that starts to happen, that's how I know I'm embarrassed. And again, I can't help it. It just happens. I don't really know if my face gets noticeably redder though, because I've never seen my face this way. I surely hope it's not noticeable. I'm not blushing because I think you're hot, I'm blushing because I'm embarrassed. Embarrassed for what? I don't know. That reminds me, stuttering is also another main problem I deal with. There's nothing bad about stuttering. Sometimes we mess up our words in the middle of talking and we have to correct ourselves. But that's just me, overanalyzing the scenario and worrying that I'll be made fun of just because of a common human error. So I know, I'm sure you can tell I'm really bad at interpreting scenarios realistically. But that's just how it's always been. Clearly, there's just a huge difference between reality and the way I imagine it. I'm sure many times I've been in a social experience and I get horribly nervous and worry that everything that I've said during those few seconds of my life really weren't the worst things I could have said, because I know that it's all nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's just one of the biggest problems I faced, and it didn't help me feel better when I felt forced to talk to people just for the sake of talking to people. I know that if I could just find someone where I feel willing to open up about my feelings, I'd feel less intimidated, and maybe every time I had dealt with feeling unsafe or anxious, they were most likely not as bad as I truly envisioned.